Hey everyone, this is Earl Harville of Harville Vocal Studio back with you again. Today I want to talk to you about the signs of potential vocal injury, vocal damage, vocal distress. Any of us can have a bad day where our voice doesn't seem to react the way it normally would. It's not as strong, it's not as free as it normally would be. And that could come from simply a lack of rest or dehydration or maybe a lot of yelling at a sporting event or a party or something like that. But what I want to talk to you today about is the warning signs of something deeper, of some potential real vocal problem that may need to be taken care of on a medical therapeutic level. If you notice that your voice is a little out of whack for more than a week, 2 weeks tops, you definitely want to go be seen by a doctor, a throat specialist. Here's a word that you need to hear. Your normal everyday ENT probably won't cut it. Quite often ENTs aren't specifically trained in voice disorders. So if you feel that there's something going on with your voice, you need to go to an ENT who has had extensive additional training in vocal disorders, so that they would have the proper instrumentation to be able to examine your voice with a laryngoscope or with stroboscopy, so that they could really get a good look at the vocal folds and see if there's anything there to seriously be worried about. Here are some signs you need to look for if you think that there's something a little off. One is if you're noticing hoarseness more than normal and that's prolonged for multiple days in a row. If you're noticing that the voice is getting raspier than normal, and again, it's lasting a larger portion of the day, or it's recurring several days in a row. If you're noticing that your voice is getting fatigued extremely easily, more so than normal, your voice is tiring much quicker than you're used to it happening. If you notice that there's a loss of range, that your high notes, again, for multiple days, your high notes are not there. And also if you notice that if the voice is going in and out, kind of an intermittent loss of pitch in the middle of singing a note, or maybe even speaking, that's another warning sign that there's something that needs to be seen. If you're noticing that your voice is getting breathier than normal, again, either when speaking or when singing, that there's an increased amount of excess air coming through as you're making your sound. And if you notice that your vocal warm-up is taking longer than normal. Again, this isn't just if it's happening a day or two, but if you see it's happening for 5, 6, 7 days to a week to 2 weeks, then you should be concerned. And again, you want to go see a laryngologist, an ENT, who's got extensive training in vocal disorders, because they not only will have the right equipment to do the right kind of evaluation, they'll know the right kind of questions to ask. They'll know to ask you about your vocal habits, your warm-up habits, your performance habits, your practice habits, so that they can get a good idea of what could potentially be an issue. I myself had a large hemorrhagic polyp in 2008 removed, and I saw one of the best voice specialists in the country, Dr. Robert Bastian in Chicago. And before he even looked at my throat, he did an inventory to find out what are my habits in terms of speaking. Am I gregarious? Am I quiet? All those kind of things. Of course, anyone who knows me knows that I'm not very quiet. And in fact, on a scale from, I believe, 1 to 7, I was a 7. So I was a vocal overdoer. So that's taken into account in figuring out what is going on with the voice, what contributing factors are there that may have led to a certain vocal issue. If you in fact are diagnosed with some kind of vocal pathology, meaning that there's been a hemorrhage or there's a polyp or there are nodules or something else in place, you are going to be treated not only by a doctor, but you're probably also going to have to see a speech pathologist. And some of the best of the throat doctors may have speech pathologists on site, or else they have one that they refer clients to often. And your treatment is basically going to be a team effort between that ENT, that voice specialist, between the speech pathologist who will check with you on your patterns in terms of speaking, making sure that there are no things that are happening that are chronic in terms of the way you talk and the way you sing that are leading you to some kind of vocal injury or vocal dysfunction. And then your voice teacher should be the third part of that team, because then we need to work with your speech pathologist or the information we're getting from your speech pathologist and your doctor in terms of how we are to proceed in working with your voice. It may be that you need to take some downtime and not do any training at all. It may be that they don't want very much vocal silence. It may be important to go right into some vocal therapy, and we would use the exercises in a different way to help the voice get back to normal. But again, it's important that that team is in place, and it's important that you communicate with all those members of the team and that we can share information so that we can facilitate your recovery the best. There are some things that I want you to think about in terms of vocal maintenance that may keep you out of trouble in the first place. One of them is sleep. Sleep is very important because that's where the vocal folds really get a chance to recoup and rejuvenate after being used all day. So getting sleep, really optimally you want 7-8 hours. Some say 6 to 8, but you need to make sure that you're getting enough sleep so that the fibers of the vocal folds can repair and recover as you sleep. Hydration. One of the biggest issues with the voice is a lack of hydration. Once you feel that you're thirsty, you are already dehydrated. So you need to be drinking enough water throughout the day to keep those vocal folds constantly lubricated so that they are not put in the danger of creating extra friction, which could lead to some vocal injury and vocal abnormalities. Watch how you speak. Make sure that you don't speak lower than what they call your median pitch, because it will tire the voice out quickly. A way to find your median pitch, by the way, is to go mum, 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 and that will help you find that optimal pitch so that you are not sitting in a same place, speaking on that same area all the time and irritating the cords. It's also important to speak melodically. Let your voice rise and fall the way that you would when you're singing a melody of a song. It again will keep your voice from getting overly fatigued and will keep the voice a little bit stretched out. Throughout your day, if you are one who speaks a lot, be it being a classroom teacher, or you do some kind of public speaking, or you're a receptionist, or anything that's going to require a lot of your speaking voice during the day, let alone singing, it's good to do some little vocal stretches throughout the day. If you've got a minute or so, do some little stretches on a lip trill or a tongue trill or a hum, or vowels such as E, or ooh. Or what's also great is to do the O through puffy cheeks, which replicates the blowing in a straw. If you have the straw, you can do the blowing in the straw. If you don't, you can do the O through puffy cheeks, which will replicate that, which will stretch the muscles in the throat back out and give you some relief from all of the workload that you've been under. Again, if you see these symptoms that I mentioned earlier for a maximum of 2 weeks, go get seen by a qualified doctor who has the knowledge of vocal disorders, who will have the right equipment, who will know the right questions to ask, will know the right direction to give you, will have the right people in place to serve as part of your team in terms of a speech pathologist. Talk to your voice teacher. Your voice teacher should have an idea of who are the good doctors to see in your area. That is really important. If you're not studying with a voice teacher and you are a singer, a serious singer, you need to be with one. So find a qualified voice teacher to learn good technique, which will keep you relatively safe and keep you from overtaxing your voice, allowing you to be able to be resilient after a good, after singing hard, or you know how to recover. You know how to warm up the voice. You know how to cool down the voice. You know how to get your voice to be its maximum on a day from day to day, because your voice will your voice will kind of be affected by your mood and the amount of sleep and the amount of hydration, what you've eaten, and all those kind of things. So studying with a good teacher so you learn a good technique will help you to navigate those crazy waters when you're having to sing on a day when you're not 100%. So invest in your voice enough to find great training. All right, if you've got any questions for me, you can always visit me at www.harvillevoice.com, my website, and you can inquire into lessons or leave me a email about any vocal questions that you might have. Take care of your voice. You only get one. All right, happy singing.